few charcoal lines. No drive or ambition. There's not enough time for the full painting. The doing of duty. I am sorry, framed. I am dull. It is good luck not to catch a falling leaf. Thomas apologised, like catching a falling star. The local officers arrived and apologised. On breezy autumn days we ran around wearing the wrong shoes, smoking out of his slip to the gym. I talked to my social drinker, not always, girlfriend. I apologised for the hours around the car and the commercial rarely got the coin to rise. I patted his dog with so sure. He tells me that he's day smoking for days. I feel hot relaxed. I look for the out of him. I saw myself as very normal. I still get glad to see his cordial. We missed the last it's good time to see it. It's good time to have Kevin and I had dad rings a local flag because I'm trying to see cigarette. It's not about national or waiting to the parole is okay. And so he then walked away. The blackbird will guide you home.
This is a sketch, a few charcoal lines. There's not enough time for the full painting, varnished, framed, hung, signed.
No drive or ambition, just a doing of duty, distraction, and waiting to die.
I am sorry. I am dull. I did not blow the spark. I am the bird that folded its wings, the stream not cutting its banks or wearing its stone. I am the fog dampening the air, not the wind chasing clouds or the sun dissipating them. Even the timid mouse fights for food and sings for lovers. Spring flowers turn their faces towards insects. Autumn trees fill their branches for the future. Yet I have not clamoured or encrusted myself with jewels. There is no redemption here.
It's good luck to catch a falling leaf, we were told, like catching a falling star to put in our pockets. On breezy autumn days we ran around under oak and beech in the park, our faces and hands stretched to the heavens, squealing and snatching at blizzards of gold, and only rarely coming home with prize, to be pressed between sugar paper for a rainy day.
Thomas apologises, is drunk, begs a cigarette and apologises. Tells me he speaks 5 languages. It is nothing. He's an electrician and his landlord is an idiot. Owns 50 houses and spends the rent in casinos. Wants Thomas to work for free. He tells him to fuck off. He apologises. Pulls out an e-cigarette, says, I will give up, but this is porn compared with a real cigarette, which is sex. He apologises. This is not about the cigarette. I am sincere. I have asked a lot of people, but they just look at me. I want to say thank you. Happy New Year. This is not about the cigarette. Sincerely, it is about you.
The locum prescribed Prozac. I became normal, stopped smoking, went to the gym, became a social drinker, got a girlfriend, discovered ambition. My doctor was livid. He cut off my supply. I started smoking, forgot exercise, became a sullen drunk, lost my girlfriend, lost direction. Thank God, said my friends. We missed the real you. We're glad to have you back.
I wonder if my father ever cradled me in the crook of his arm, absent-mindedly kissing my forehead, stroking my hair whilst talking to friends. I have no recall of him taking me to the gents for the first time, making sure I read in the toilet, shook myself properly, congratulating me on a job well done. I can still see the tiny cakes he left on my bedside table. Apologies if he'd been working late. I can remember the first morning they no longer appeared. The year I was old enough to have a camping knife like his, with a leather sheath to thread it on my belt. It came with a warning to use it properly. He was not one for hugging. Comforting, I think. The day the chain guard was knocked off my bike by the careless throw of a friend's frisbee. He told me to tell my friend's parents to pay to repair it. Of course I did. He was my king. I did not understand the joke. I was a serious boy.
Monday night is indie night. Get stoned first, wear my favourite black, perhaps a Diamante accessory. Big coat, drinking a can, walking in shadows to the alleyway doorway. Feign sobriety and pay. If early enough, watch the whole of Infected on the big projection screen with a pint of cider, mesmerised as the club fills. Once a barmaid asked if I was all right. Broke my trance. I smiled. Fine. Fine. She smiled.
Saturdays are crafted, honed to minimum fuss for function. Years of repetition, smoothing their corners until streamlined. Saturdays envied by those whose chaotic lumpen clumps of weekends distort and buck beneath their fluttering hands. Saturdays that represent a singular dedication to insularity, unaffected by the clattering demands of other lives. Polished Saturdays, residing on sideboards, varnished, rarely touched by visitors, assumed to be valuable.
Getting home, stoned, to find blood spots on the hallway floor, a handprint on his door handle. I don't want to know. Put my key in my lock, his door opens. He lurches. Blood on his shirt, blood around his nose. Drunk, looming. Pete, don't worry if the police come. I've had a fight with my ex's boyfriend. The thing is, I love my kids, okay? Eyes glistening. Let them in. I'm going to change. He closes the door. They arrive. He lets them in himself. I'm sitting in silence in my flat, barely breathing, lights off.
Wearing the wrong shoes, I slipped on a rain-slick iron grid, slid, grasped at the night air, landed hard, cursed the coins in my back pocket taking the weight. Sat embarrassed, brushed wet grit from damp trousers with tender palms, clumsily squirmed to raise my bones. A man leaned forward, proffered a hand, asked, "Got any spare change?"
I talked to my bike, not out loud. I apologise if I've left it in the rain or longer than usual locked to the rack. I pat it on the saddle and say, "There you go, all better if I fixed it somehow." I wonder if it's glad to see me as I am it when I come out of work. I worry about it, curse it sometimes. It doesn't have a name.
Nana's nose started to bleed on the coach. It wouldn't stop. I was not equipped for emergencies. Just 5 years old. My mother licked hankies to rub dirt from round my mouth and Dad stinging TCP into the grazes on my knees. But now Nana's nose was leaking. Life. A broken tap. I was mortified. She was horrified. Didn't know how to stem it. Was running out of tissues. Kind people gave her more. Someone had a Tupperware bowl. She held it under her chin, saying, "Oh dear, as the bowl filled with roses and poppies. Clucking passengers offered advice, and I just stared out of the window, wishing it wasn't happening. Eventually it stopped. Nana stuffed the tissues into a carrier, handed back the bowl, turned to me, pale and breathless, confided she'd been terrified, had heard of a man who died of a nosebleed because all he ever ate was chips.
I should have knocked him to the floor and put my foot on his neck. Thought about it for days afterwards, how the look in his eyes would show he regretted rubbing my bald head, like patronising a small child as he bowled out of the pub drunk. He thought it hilarious, and I was frozen for the seconds it took him to leave, confused by the disrespect. But if I had been in his world, not lost in mine, I would have stood, knocked him to the floor, put my foot on his neck, looked into his eyes.
I woke with a deep sense of having forgotten something. To turn the oven off, to lock the door, having dreamed vividly of you telling me things had changed. You were unhappy now. You were waiting for me. But they weren't your words. You winked to let me in on the joke. And I remembered how beautiful you were. How I had forgotten to live.
One night in Munich, under the famous clock, I found a ring of nightlights commemorating something. The death of a celebrity, perhaps, or a significant anniversary. Alone in a foreign city, I spent an hour shaping each candle, fingers and thumbs in hot wax, into alternating hearts and stars. To my knowledge, no one saw me, but I am confessing now, so that you know what I did.
Well rehearsed, he calls me boss, apologises, doesn't want me to throw him under a bus. Knows he's homeless and smells, but he's got all of his stuff here in his bag to throw down for the night. We all fall on hard times. He's trying to get what he needs. There's a long way to go. He explains that his bike gets him places. I notice the wetness of his eyes. I'm thinking of refugees and when do I start giving with a pint in my hand and change in my pocket. He calls me boss, thanks me for what I give him. I am a gentleman with a good heart.
Like the old days, cringing at my passport photo, wincing at the cost of renewal. Finding sketchbook bargains, unearthing treasure in Oxfam, celebrating with a cappuccino. Noticing the estate agent's shirts and ties, watching lunchtime people shopping, hearing two gossiping women stopping as the muscled man passes by. Slurping at chocolatey foam, thinking, I should get my book out, be writing.
That night, the three of us got drunk in the empty gallery, sat on fat rolls of bubble wrap and half-empty emulsion tubs. Playing truth or lie. I, with my need to impress, went first, revealing too much. So you decided we'd play hide and seek. You were it, diligently covering your eyes and counting to 100 while we stood in an empty white room with nowhere to hide ourselves. At 100 coming, I was pressed face first into a corner. If I can't see you, then you can't see me. I could hear you giggling before he swept you onto his shoulder and ran the full length of the room, you squealing and clinging on. And then it was time to go. We locked up, hugged and kissed goodbye, saying we'd tidy up in the morning.
Kevin and Saeed, staggering drunk on the way into town, slurrily ask for cigarettes. When it's established that I'm a Liverpool supporter, like Kevin respects me, calls me his fam, his bruv. Saeed supports Arsenal. Liverpool are shit, man. I roll their cigarettes, hand over my lighter. Kevin wants to know if I'm South African, if my parents are from Africa. Saeed wishes me good luck getting some pussy.
It was a government scheme for the unemployed. The task: choose one thing to rescue if your house was on fire. We were to discuss in pairs, make a presentation to the group with reasons, an icebreaker, an exercise in prioritising. Other than family photographs, we decided passports. Otherwise, we were nobodies. Outside at fag break, we laughed, agreed our first thoughts had been our stashes.
Now she's walking down the middle of the road, in starless, moonless night, talking. And I'm advising her to get out of the road. She won't. I can't tell her what to do. She keeps talking and walking, tight-roping the white dashes, rebellious. And a car doesn't come. She isn't killed.
Latch coming through, he whispered to his equally drunk mate, loud enough for me to hear as I squeezed past, trying not to nudge elbows, spill drinks. In the gents, I replayed the words, along with all other times I had been called names, from oaf to moose to Shrek, from school to college to pub. Tried to calculate my survival chances in a fight at this age, if I should stand up at last. his youth, his mate, their drunkenness, me wielding my years of suppression. I didn't feel adrenaline. Edging back, placing a hand gently on his shoulder to squeeze by, whispering, "Excuse me, dickhead," loud enough for him to hear.
After the journey, train, bus, foot, I pitched the tent, built a fire, lit it, ate sandwiches, read a book, drinking whiskey till dark, and under stars listened to owls. Then pushed earbuds into my ears, drinking whiskey, selected an album, started weeping for loss, for loneliness, for love, for life. Then danced to a poem, swayed and stepped in the glow, drinking whiskey. Pissed behind the tent, crawled in, slept.
Waiting for the doctor who speaks English, Google Translations in hand, concentrating on the empty coffee cup on the table and the doodles on a stranger's file. The other doctors could not understand my mispronunciations, my clumsy mouth. He tells me stage 4 tumours in the liver, prognosis very poor. The room is contracting, listing, focusing on the back of a chair, his hand. Shall I? Does she know? How will I tell the others? I repeat what little French I have. Merci. Pardon. Merci.
Stacy talked at me, asked for a lighter, sat down, warned me about the riffraff, of which she was not one. The bouncers are funny in this town. I don't cause trouble, but keep getting thrown out of places. There was a time she blew up at a bouncer who wouldn't say how long the wait to get in was, and the time some bloke grabbed her neck and pushed her, so she pushed back, but he was the DJ, so they threw her out. And the time all 3 of them got thrown out for no reason, so stood outside, giving it that, standing up for themselves. She didn't want to come out, hasn't seen her boyfriend for 2 days. He's in the casinos. Her friend insisted. They were drinking while changing. Now she's leathered, has to pee, warns me about the riffraff. We shake hands, exchange names. She might come back out later. She took my lighter.
A woman who looks like a misaligned love, with a man I do not know, seems to be pointedly ignoring me. They laugh. I watch, waiting to see if she'll turn back to see me watching.
The last 3 photographs he took, the backs of his friends on the mountain, almost monochrome, snow, rock, sky. In one friend is looking back. In the fuss of the emergency, keeping him warm, waiting for mountain rescue, the camera was overlooked, dropped in the snow until thaw, finally found by a climber 6 months later. The camera arrived in the post. The only mark a smudge of rust. The developed film contained just 3 photos that my mother saved in an envelope.
Thing is, right, they got it more sus than the bleeding IRA. I mean, if you go somewhere like Dortmund to the station, there's thousands of people there, and you're wearing a puffer jacket, you can hide a suicide vest under them easy. And you stand next to a burger van, boom, you take out 100 people. That's what they want, impact. If they send over 100 people and only 50 get through, that's still 50 to do the damage. It's just a matter of time.
A true and accurate chronological account of all the words I uttered aloud in the 86-hour period between 8:30 p.m. on Friday the 8th of April 2016 and 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 12th of April 2016. Hello. No, I've bought my own bags, thank you. Shit. Hello? No, I'm too busy for a cold call, Stephen. Goodbye. Hi. Hello, I've got my own bag, thank you. Hi, pint of John Smith's, please. Thanks. Cheers. Hi, I'm all right, thanks. Another John Smith's, please. Ta. Cheers. Cheers. Thank you. Good night. Swung from a chandelier, my planet sweet on a silver salver, bailed out my worst fears, 'cause man has to be his own saviour.
Standing outside together, a drunk appears, starts talking at her, ignoring me. Gets more leery, then oversteps her mark, so she asks, "Why are you being such a cunt?" He wavers, blinks. "The only cunt around here is you," jabbing a finger at her groin. In that moment, I smash his face against the wall, kick him unconscious. If he touches her, he's dead. She once worked in an off-licence till 3 a.m, dealt with all sorts, and I know these are just words, and my first punch means I have lost. She saves us, steps forwards, says, "No, that's enough, go home," like scolding a bad dog. Sends him away to drown in the dirt of his evening.
I saw you cruising in October, blasting out the hip-hop in your big white Beamer, with the window down and your elbow out and your tattooed arm and your gold links and your baseball cap. I saw you cruising past the charity shops and the coffee houses and the hardware stores of this southern port city, like it was LA, like it was Grand Theft Auto, like you were the king of the streets.
The first hours of the year are spent 20 years in the past. An adventure. A front room, table strewn with beer cans, torn Rizzler packets, weed. One man nervously laughing at another, raising his voice to explain. One playing the guitar, singing. One anxious, one misjudging the mood. Then a conversation about my face. Why do you always look angry? It's just my face. But you look angry. I'm not. But you look it. I leave. Can't balance on only 2 feet. Drop my keys on the way home. Scoop a dare, then find a stone. The third blind attempt has them, cold and jangling in my hand.
Painted into a corner, Magnolia and Artex. The rules of this house are simple. Remove your shoes on entering, don't tread on the cracks. Speak when spoken to, don't touch. A place for everything and everything in its place. Hide stuff in the cupboard under the stairs. Air the bed, rotate the knickknacks. This is where you put the canned food. Fruit in the bowl, milk in the fridge. There are books on the shelves and the world at your fingertips, and the very worst thing in the world is being alone.
That strange warm evening when we lay in the pool after a long drive. Watch stars emerge overhead on the horizon. A growing foam of clouds, luminous and flickering with lightning, but silent and distant. And I wondered if I was beginning to love you.
Angel, I want to learn something about you. Angel, I want to learn more about you. Angel, a buddy for serious corresponding. Angel, a buddy for hip corresponding. Angel, beautiful girl in search of. Angel, I want to know something about your person. Angel, I want to know more about your person. Angel, Beautiful girl seeking. Angel. Write to me. Angel. I want to learn something about you. Angel. I want to know more about you. Angel. Pretty girl in search of. Angel. I want to know more about your person. Angel. Beautiful girl looking for. Angel. A man for serious corresponding. Angel. A friend for serious corresponding. Angel. Hello. Angel. Hello. Angel. I want to learn more about you. Angel. Rhyme me.
I get so bored of some bloke telling me how he bought a car and was so excited that he woke his dad, who had downed 2 bottles of vodka the night before, saying, "Dad, look at my car." And his dad was just lying there saying, "Fuck off." So he grabbed his dad saying, "Look at my car." And his dad was built, not fat, he used to do weights. So his dad grabbed him and he fell on the bed and they started to tussle, and his dad had him in a headlock because his dad was built, and he kicked his dad, but his dad held on, so he punched his dad like bosh, bosh, and his dad said, "Okay, okay," and that's the sign for no more. "Okay, okay," and so he let I walk away.
Lying across an earthwork, back long, head on the bank, feet in the ditch, imagining what ancient lives chose this place and why. Remembering childhood books of time shifts, staring into a sky so pure it gives vertigo. Closing my eyes, listening, distant metal boxes travelling, silver crosses humming high above. My thoughts pass, before a trapped nerve, pins and needles has me fidgeting, squirming. There is no peace. I stretch my neck, head back, can see the horizon curving the wrong way, clouds at one end, trees the other. More vertigo. I intently study a small cloud and realise it is the September half-moon, translucent against washed blue. Walking home, I encounter evidence of a buried memory.
Walk towards the song of the thrush, keeping the chaffinch on your right at all times. Woodpeckers will tell you whether to speed up or slow down. When you hear the great tit, turn left and continue on until a cuckoo calls 3 times, then turn left again. The blackbird will guide you home.